Did Kendrick Lamar get Drake to diss himself on the song Poetic Justice? Was Kendrick Lamar one of Drake's early ghostwriters in Drake's career? And how in the hell did me and Desiree Rose come up with the Poetic Justice Theory? Some of you were in the comments section on a couple of other videos saying, hey, I see you got a lot of content here. And we do. It's over 10 hours worth of content across multiple channels and different platforms. Is there a way? The question was, is there a way to get all of that content condensed into 30 minutes or less? Your arguments for the Poetic Justice Theory, and then the common counter arguments that we hear against the Poetic Justice Theory. And that is exactly what I am hoping to accomplish in the next 29 minutes. So before we get into all of that, make sure you guys do the YouTube thing. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, hype, and subscribe. We really do appreciate that. If you guys want to support the content, go to the link in my bio. To my link tree, I got a link that'll take you, to either Cash App or PayPal or Venmo, whatever. All the links are there in my bio. But the Poetic Justice Theory is very simple. We just surmised that 13 years ago, Drake and Kendrick Lamar collaborated on 3 different songs, right? Like there's 3 different songs that those two do together on 3 separate albums. One on Drake's album, which is Buried Alive. Poetic Justice being on Kendrick Lamar's album, Good Kid, Mad City. And the third was on Fucking Problems on A$AP Rocky's album. It's in those songs that we assert that Kendrick Lamar ghost writes for Drake. That is the work that he gives over to Drake in order to now have access to the music industry that he now has. It is through these 3 songs that Kendrick not only details his initiation into the music industry, but he tells you that he is Drake's ghostwriter. He tells you that these messages will be buried alive. And he hopes that the listeners, the true fans of the art form, will dig up those messages. And he also codes these messages in hopes that one day his true fans will find it, unearth it, and discuss amongst themselves the real story that Kendrick Lamar is painting. How we came up with the Poetic Justice Theory is simple. I was studying during the pandemic everyone's catalogs and everyone's discographies. I started with East Coast rappers. I made my way to West Coast rappers. I love Tupac Shakur. And this was during the pandemic. So for me, the pandemic affected me personally. I was furloughed from my job. I didn't have a job for close to 18 months. And Tupac and his lyrics, and especially his songs about class consciousness, it really spoke to me. And of course, going down that Tupac rabbit hole, understanding the relationship that Kendrick Lamar has with Tupac's music, I wanted to dive into Kendrick's catalog. So I did that. And one night while I couldn't sleep and I was playing Madden late at night, I was just kind of, playing Poetic Justice in my head. And I just, for whatever reason, I saw the message. I saw what he was saying. And mind you, this is hindsight being 2020, right? It's during the COVID pandemic. It's during all of that. So I had already known about Drake and his alleged use of ghostwriters through Quentin Miller and his beef with Meek Mill. And then I just started pulling at that string. It's like, oh, okay. So if Kendrick Lamar wrote this verse for Drake, what is Drake actually saying? And we get into all of that. We published our first Poetic Justice Theory video called Decoding Drake and Kendrick 5 years ago. We sound nervous, and it's because we were nervous. I understand that I am a white person trying to talk about hip hop. I understand I'm speaking on culture, and I want to do it in the most respectful way possible. So obviously that first video, especially my first YouTube video, being an hour and a half long, I was a little nervous, and we just left it at that. We put out the Poetic Justice Theory, and we moved on with our lives. We really did. Des and I just decided, like, hey, it's cool. It's a cool Easter egg. We're just going to leave it up there. And if we're right, then one day it'll be a cool Easter egg that people can stumble upon. Fast forward to 2024, and the beef pops off. And things were said during the beef that just made me and Desiree Rose just jump for joy, because he was confirming everything that we had talked about on our original Poetic Justice Theory video that we had made 4 years before in our kitchen. So that beef, while everyone was having their own experience with it, witnessing the culture shift, that was really cool. For me and Des in particular, it takes on a different meaning, and it's something that I don't think y'all on the other side of the video can understand, because we had talked about Drake in this light 4 years before Kendrick even talked about him like that on record and put him on blast like that. And 2 weeks before the beef even popped off, I got on my TikTok to try and explain Poetic Justice to you in 90 seconds or less. And one of the things I said was, Kendrick Lamar views Drake as taking away from the black community. Me, a white guy, saying that 2 weeks before Euphoria dropped. Yeah, I caught a lot of flack, but I mean, we ended up being right, because he calls him a colonizer on Not Like Us. So what now I want to do is I want to break down, the 4 songs that you really have to know, which is our strongest, and again, coming back to the house rules that I laid out on a couple of videos already. House rules are, we only have 2 of them. We abide by the timeline of events. We stick to the timeline, and we stick to the lyrics, because the timeline and the lyrics tell the real story of what happened and transpired between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Those are the only 2 rules here. So keeping that in mind, I am now going to lay out our Poetic Justice Theory using the remainder of the time that I have. So you really have to understand, the Poetic Justice Theory is mainly about 4 songs in particular. 3 of those songs, Buried Alive, Poetic Justice, and Effin' Problems. Buried Alive occurring, again, on the timeline in November of 2011. This is before the Club Paradise tour. If you look at Buried Alive, Kendrick is detailing out in these lyrics not only his initiation into the music industry, he's comparing Drake to R. Kelly at one point, and he also is saying that Drake is telling him, hey, you have to rap a certain way now that you're in this industry. You need to keep women in mind. Women be the tastemakers for the shit that we're making. He's telling him he's got to rap a certain way. And then here at the end of the song, he says, the reason why the highlight was when he said, you belong to the people when you're outside. So dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of pussy, full of fame, and bury yourself alive. Bury yourself alive. Then I died. So he's telling you that he no longer belongs to himself. He belongs to the industry. And that his message will be buried alive in the lyrics, because he now has to code the way that he talks to you, the listener. The second song that you have to understand when understanding the Poetic Justice Theory is the Heart Part 3. And the Heart Part 3 is important for multiple reasons. One, it comes out 2 days before Good Kid, Mad City. And 2, it is detailing out where Kendrick is mentally with not only his relationship with you, the listener, but his relationship with hip hop, and how TDE pulled off this heist on Drake. So the first order of business that I have to draw your attention to, especially when it comes to the Heart Part 3, is this line right here, where he says, truthfully, I just started rapping to get away. I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse. My fella got hit 25 times with a K. He's telling you, Kendrick is telling you that he never thought your favorite rapper at the time. And if you look at the charts, Drake was everywhere. You couldn't go into a record store. You couldn't go to AMC 30 in Sterling Heights, Michigan. You couldn't get in your car without hearing a Drake song. He was arguably one of the biggest rappers on the planet off of a mixtape. So Kendrick Lamar is saying, off of a mixtape and an album. So he's basically saying, I never thought your favorite rapper, the industry darling that was Drake in his early career. I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse. He got hit 25 times with a K. He's telling you that your favorite rapper, wanted a verse from him. So what did he do? He hit him 25 times with a Kendrick Lamar. He hit him 25 times with a K. The other part of the Heart Part 3 that you need to understand is when Kendrick Lamar says, three hollow tips aimed at your head, I'll be damned if the chopper jam now. And before that bar, he says, I need to find a better way to stand out. I need to find a better way to take your fans now. 3 hollow tips aimed at your head, I'll be damned if the chopper jam now. A hollow tip is a bullet that expands upon impact. So like it hits the target and then boom, like that. It'll just open up and expand upon impact. Those are these 3 songs. He's talking about these 3 songs in particular. Buried Alive, Poetic Justice, and Fucking Problems. Because it's on these 3 songs that it's going to expand upon impact. And finally, the last thing that you need to know about the Heart Part 3 is that it is the song that comes out right before Good Kid, Mad City. And Kendrick Lamar asks you, the listener specifically, will you let hip hop die on October 22nd? And it's because he's afraid that his message is now so coded and buried that you won't pick up on the messaging, that you won't get what he's truly trying to say and what he actually did to Drake now that it's coded. So, again, sticking to the lyrics and sticking to the timeline, those are important to understand, those 2 things. Good Kid, Mad City drops on October 22nd, 2012. And part of the Poetic Justice Theory includes the one that we, our first video, Decoding Drake and Kendrick, includes a moment where we talk about how Money Trees is the setup to the diss, because Kendrick Lamar is one of those guys who is constantly calling back to his own albums, to his own songs. He is constantly referencing himself. And you'll see the reference to Money Trees here in a second on the 3rd collaboration with Drake. But Money Trees is the setup. And if you look at the track sequencing for Good Kid, Mad City, it goes from Money Trees into Poetic Justice. And that is 100% intentional, because where do you typically find shade? You typically find shade underneath something. So Kendrick Lamar intentionally put Money Trees above Poetic Justice. So Poetic Justice is underneath the tree, right? If you delve into the lyrics on Money Trees, like we did in our original video, he says, you looking like an easy come up, you bish. A silver spoon, I know you come from, you bish. Think about who Drake is. Think about where he comes from. This dude was on Degrassi. He's a middle-class dude from Toronto. Just remember who Drake is. Remember that. A silver spoon, I know you come from, you bish. And that's a lifestyle that we never knew. You'd go at a reverend for the revenue. You'd go at a reverend for a check. And he calls and he said, he finally says right here, it goes Holly Berry or hallelujah. Pick your poison. Tell me what you're doing. Everyone is going to respect the shooter. Everyone is going to respect the industry. But the one in front of the gun lives forever. The artist lives forever. And I've been hustling all day, this way, that way, through canals and alleyways, just to say that Money Trees is the perfect place for shade. And that's just how I feel. How he feels is Poetic Justice, because the song Poetic Justice is not just a Drake diss. It is a perfectly penned and coded letter to not only his community of Compton, but to hip hop, to black culture. It is, and it's a love letter dedicated to them and dedicated to you. And that's why, if you look at Poetic Justice, as we highlight in our first decoding video, we tell you that it is Kendrick Lamar speaking through Drake, and he gets Drake to say, I could never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real, P.S. We also talk about on on the decoding part 2 that we made after the beef, we tell you that Pusha T makes a specific reference when he was dissing Drake on his song Infrared. How can you right your wrongs when you don't even write your songs? That is very intentional because Pusha T knows about poetic justice. So, coming back to Drake's verse on poetic justice, he says, I can never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real. And it should be noted that at one point in the verse, Drake goes, I was trying to put you on game, put you on a plane, take you and your mama to the motherland. I can't recall Drake taking a trip to Africa post poetic justice and putting someone on a plane and taking him with him to Africa after, the poetic justice song was released. But Kendrick Lamar, it should be noted that Kendrick Lamar takes a very public trip to Africa in 2015. Again, actions speak louder than words, and we stick to the lyrics and we stick to the timeline on everything, right? Those are the 2 rules in this household. It's also on poetic justice where you get this third verse from Kendrick Lamar that is so incredible. The line in particular that I want to draw your attention to is right here towards the end. He says, read slow and you'll find gold mines in these lines. Sincerely yours truly, and right before you go blind, P.S. It's not sincerely me and Aubrey Graham. It's not sincerely Kendrick Lamar and Drake. It's sincerely yours truly. He wrote this song in particular. And right before you figure it out, right before it dawns on you, the reason why he did it, that P.S. is not postscript. That P.S. is shorthand for Pac Shakur. And when you truly think about Kendrick Lamar and his connection to Tupac's music and how vocal he is on that, and what a staunch listener to Tupac that he is, an advocate for people going to listen to his music and talking about openly the impact that Tupac's music has had on his life. He would never, ever allow Drake on a song dedicated to Tupac's favorite film that he did and dedicated to Tupac Shakur unless it was getting him to say something on wax forever that he can't take back. That would be poetic justice. That would be what it is. And the chorus itself is a message to you. You can get it. You can get it. You can get it. You can get it. And I know just what you want. Poetic justice. Put it in a song. We go over all of that in our first decoding video that we made over 5 years ago. Again, I'm condensing 12 hours worth of content, so bear with me. Okay, moving on. The final collaboration between Drake and Kendrick Lamar happens on A$AP Rocky's album, Fucking Problems. I have done breakdowns on Drake's verse and how there's some very questionable lines there. Again, going off the working theory that Kendrick Lamar ghost wrote for Drake multiple times. You can go back and look at my other content on that. But the lines that I really want to draw your attention to from the third verse on this song is Kendrick Lamar saying, right here, he says, girl, I'm Kendrick Lamar, AKA Benz to me is just a car. That is a callback, believe it or not, to Buried Alive. If you go back and listen to the Buried Alive interlude, he basically says like the industry has Drake like mesmerized and addicted with Rihanna as a lady friend and an addiction that'll keep him in Mercedes-Benz. So he is saying a Benz to me is just a car. Like I'm Kendrick Lamar. I've done a breakdown on this whole verse, but again, another line that I need to draw your attention to, just to make these quick points, is the Halle Berry hallelujah. Holler back, I'll do ya, beast. Calling back to money trees, because where's the perfect place for shade? Underneath something. He's trying to draw your attention to the messaging, but again, he has to do it in code. Because the industry is now involved. He is an industry guy. and he can't speak plainly anymore. So it has to be like this. So again, sticking to the timeline, sticking to the lyrics, that is the poetic justice theory in a nutshell. We have done deeper dives we've done deeper dives on Euphoria. We've done deeper dives on Meet the Grams, on Not Like Us. You know, we've done a lot of work on this. And again, sticking to the timeline, sticking to the lyrics, that is just poetic justice in a nutshell very quickly. Now, what I want to get to, because I see a lot of you with similar comments, both on TikTok and on YouTube, with counter arguments to our poetic justice theory on why we're wrong. And I want to get into addressing some of the ones that we see all the time. The first of those counter arguments is, why does Drake have a writing credit if Kendrick Lamar wrote Drake's verse for him? And it's very simple to understand. The way that the music industry works is that writing credits are like a barrier to entry. It's a part of the game that they play, right? So you're never going to have an artist get on a song without getting a writing credit, even if it was ghost written for them. And that's important to remember, because when you look at how the writing credits are actually structured, and you kind of just go through, like, you can do a deep dive on I pulled this up. This is just an AI overview of how songwriting credits work from a financial, contractual, and from, a collaborative standpoint. But basically, it's about the royalty, right? So you're never going to have an artist get on a song and not have a writing credit on that song, just in case the song blows up and becomes number one and very popular, right? Because the royalty is how these artists eat. So it's used as a barrier to entry. So if Drake is coming on a song, he'll say, okay, at this time, like, give $50K for the verse and then put a writing credit on it, right? That's how they get paid up front, and then they get paid on the back end. It's basically used as a barrier to entry. So you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Even though, there's instances where, like, artists like Prince, Mac Miller, those are just the two off the top of my head. I think even Logic has his son has a writing credit on a couple of his songs. Mac Miller puts his brother as a writing credit on some of his songs. Prince has used his family members on songs. It's a way for his family members to kind of get something on the back end. You know what I mean? It's just something that they do. Another counter argument that we get constantly when talking about the poetic justice theory is, well, mainstream media, the mainstream, my favorite podcaster says this, that it starts at control. Or, I saw a XXL article from back in the day that says control is where everything started. And what I can say about that is that they're wrong because the lyrics and the timeline tell you a completely different story. And I want to draw your attention to why the whole talking point in the narrative of it begins with control is a bullshit line. It's a company line that the industry had people sign up to write articles about. And it's why members of TDE, i.e. Punch, during his interview with Curtis King, says, yeah, to my knowledge, it begins on control. It's because that's what happens when NDAs are involved. They give people a talking point and expect you to stick to that talking point when an NDA is signed. And I'll get into why we believe an NDA is signed in just a second. But the main part that I want to draw your attention to, again, coming from a timeline standpoint and a lyric standpoint, the one thing that stands out to me about that control talking point is the Jodeci Freestyle. And I've already done a breakdown on the Jodeci Freestyle. I did a lyrical breakdown on that just last week. I don't need to break down the lyrics again. But if you look at the timeline and stick to the lyrics in the timeline, Jodeci Freestyle comes out 2 months before Control is dropped, right? A whole 2 months before. And just a few months, less than 6 months after their collaboration together on Poetic Justice and their collaboration together on Fucking Problems. So To me, when I look at these lyrics, right, like these scathing lyrics, like, I know I'm a sore spot, middle finger poking you in your sore spot, talking about who the best MC is. We know that you're not. It's not just about MTV naming Kendrick Lamar the hottest MC. It was never about that. You don't pen these words, if you're even penning them, about some slack MTV award that you didn't get, right? So this whole Jodeci freestyle directly contradicts that Control talking point. And even when you look at the lyrics on Control, right? When I look back and I think back about and I remember exactly where I was the first day I heard this. I was a landscaper. I was working with my boys, Joey and Nick, and Joey stops the lawnmower. He's like, "You got to listen to this verse from Kendrick Lamar." And oddly enough, we were at my house cutting my own lawn in my backyard. So, of course, we do what teenagers do and had a little fun with the wacky tobacco, and we listened to this. And I just remember this part standing out where I was like, you got to rewind that. Like, this is so crazy. But I want to draw your attention to these lines in particular. I'm usually homeboys with the same fellas I'm rhyming with, but this is hip hop and they should know what time it is. Think about the artists, and this is a main crux of our Poetic Justice Theory as well. Think about the artists mentioned in this group of artists. Jermaine Cole, Big Crit, Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills, A$AP Rocky, Drake, ? Big Sean, Jay Electron, the two guys he's on the track with, Tyler, the Creator, Mac Miller, I got love for all you, but I'm trying to murder you. Trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you. They don't want to hear not one more noun or verb from you. What is competition? Because it is. It's a word sport. These are word nerds. What is competition? I'm trying to raise the bar high. Who's trying to jump and get it? Right? It's a call to arms. But remember what I asked you before, to keep in mind the list of artists in this grouping. Jermaine Cole, prolific writer and producer. Big Crit, same. Wale, same. Pusha T, same. Meek Mills, same. A$AP Rocky is a hip-hop historian. That dude is a nerd for this game. Big Sean, Jay Electron. Big Sean is incredible with his pen. Jay Electronica is insane with his pen. Tyler, the Creator, is a prolific producer. Mac Miller had a jazz phase. He not only was a prolific producer, but an incredible musician. An incredible budding musician. Like, he could have had an entire career spun off of his rap career. The only odd man out in all of this is Drake. When you really stop and you really think about it, I've never seen Drake in the studio making a beat on a beat machine. I've never seen him sit down at the piano and hit a couple of keys. I've never seen that. I have seen Drake in the studio doing a funk flex freestyling from a BlackBerry. That's what I've seen Drake do. So again, just keep in mind, timeline and lyrics are the two rules in this household. So that should debunk the Control argument in your brain. The other thing I want to draw your attention to, another counter argument that we get all the time, is why doesn't Kendrick just outright say this? Why doesn't he just come out and say, and why did he not say it during the beef? He had the opportunity to say it openly. Hey, I was your ghostwriter. Game over. You know how I know the Quentin Miller rumors are true? I was one of them. And it's because we believe that the industry got involved. And once Drake found out what happened to him, Drake went to the labels and went to the industry and said, we got a problem. And Drake's people went to the industry and said, we got a problem. And we got to button this up. And we believe that Kendrick Lamar, not only Kendrick Lamar, but every member of TDE has an NDA out because they were all in the studio together. J-Rock, Absol, Schoolboy Q, Punch was right there with them. Top Dog was right there with them. They're the ones who hatched this plan together to pull this off on Drake. So it's not just Kendrick Lamar under the NDA. It's all of them. And when you sign an NDA in Hollywood and in the music industry, they basically they give you like PR talking points, standard PR talking points. Like, okay, if someone asks you about this, you're not allowed to say X, Y, and Z. What you are allowed to say is it begins with control. Or to my knowledge, it begins here on control. Or it begins here. You're not allowed to sway from those talking points. Otherwise, they'll sue you for all that you're worth. So Kendrick Lamar can't just outright say it, but he does draw attention to it in different ways throughout his career, right? You know, if you think back to the BET Cypher, I'm the master who masturbated on your favorite MC until the industry had wanted me assassinated. That is clear as day. He's the guy who got off on your favorite MC. And literally, the industry wanted him assassinated because of it. Because if you think about where Drake was at that point in his career, something like this would have absolutely devastated his credibility amongst true hip-hop listeners. You'll never listen to Drake again, knowing that he took verses from Kendrick Lamar, right? So that's important to keep in mind. The other thing that Kendrick does is that during the beef, he did call attention to it. It just kind of went over everyone's heads. And that's, you know, not necessarily your fault as a listener. There were a lot of lines, you know, calling him a colonizer, calling him a pedophile, dear Adonis, dear Sandra. There were so many moments during this war for the culture that just kind of went like, it took your breath away, right? And it's okay to miss the lines where he's trying to breadcrumb you back because like he just gave us so much, right? He gave you so much to work with. You know, it was close to like 35 minutes worth of audio from Kendrick Lamar just during that beef. Like, it's insane. If you look at the lyrics from Euphoria, he says, the very first time I shot me a Drake, the homie had told me to aim it this way. I didn't point down enough. But today I'll show you I learned from those mistakes. Somebody had told me you got a ring? On God, I'm ready to double the wage. I'd rather do that than let a Canadian fella make Pac turn in his grave. It comes back to Tupac. It comes back to his love for hip hop. It comes from being his offspring, the one carrying that torch, that crown of his. He talks about it. Colin Aubrey, no, I'm selfish. That crown is heavy because it is a burden. When you are an artist with something to say and you have a perspective and you won't compromise on your vision and what you are actually saying for industry and for a check, and you are trying to lift people up, that burden is heavy. And then he says right there, right underneath it, cutthroat business, you got shit twisted. What is it, the braids? I hurt your feelings? How could he have hurt Drake's feelings? Wait, you don't want to work with me no more? Okay. He's saying it just without saying it. And he does it again on King Kunta. If you look back, you know, this is, again, timeline and lyrics. This would have been right here, you know, after Control drops, after the BET Cypher, after the Marcellus Wiley interview where Drake goes on and just talks shit about Kendrick for a whole segment. And then Drake has his people call ESPN and say, hey, we're not doing the ESPYs unless you pull that interview. It comes after that, and then it gets released in 2015. So he says, right here on King Kunta, I can dig rapping, but a rapper with a ghostwriter, what the fuck happened? I swore I wouldn't tell, but most of y'all share bars like you got the bottom bunk in a two-man cell. Later on King Kunta, the other line that is important in all this that I forgot to grab a screenshot of. Oh, here it is. Yeah, right here. Everybody want to cut the leg off him. Kunta, black man taking co-lovers. I was going to kill a couple rappers, but they did it to themselves. The shit is elementary. I was going to kill a couple rappers, but they did it to themselves. Everybody's suicidal. They didn't even need my help. This shit is elementary. I'll probably go to jail. Like, he's saying it openly. Like, he did it to himself. I was going to do it, but they did it to themselves. They didn't even need my help. Because Drake can't help but take from other artists. He can't help but take from other rappers and take verses from people and use ghostwriters. And finally, the last the last thing that we see as a counter argument to our poetic justice theory is, well, I've heard and I've seen interviews in the media where, Kendrick Lamar and Drake are actually friends. And if he actually liked him when they were on tour. No. Again, he told you when he is outside, he does not belong to himself. He told you that clear as day on Buried Alive. And he also said during the beef, I walked this man down the whole time. Have you ever walked your enemy down? He calls him his enemy. Have you ever walked your enemy down with a poker face? Hey, we're friends. Pop, back of the head. And it's important to note that word specifically. Why would Kendrick Lamar call Drake his enemy? And where has he tried to show you that Kendrick and Drake are enemies, or Drake is Kendrick's enemy before? He does it on the Poetic Justice music video. But I could never write my wrongs lest I write it down for real. P.S. And Amigo. That flash. Did you see it? Slow it down. Here it is. Write it down for real. And Amigo. Flash. Yes. Into the chorus. You can get it. You can get it. You can get it. You can get it. Know just what you want. Poetic justice. Put it in a song. And then it runs all the way into Drake's verse. And then Drake's calling the girl who got shot while he's got another girl in his bed. So, with that all being said, and now we are running a little bit longer than 30 minutes. Yes, I want to just do some housekeeping stuff. Madman, I see you. I understand. About the 5 a.m. freestyle, or the 5 a.m. in Toronto song. I get it. The way I look at the 5 a.m. in Toronto, it's just Drake being upset about the MTV thing, and it's not really anything to do with telling the story of poetic justice. But I understand you want to see it on the timeline. I'm going to add it to the timeline. I'm also going to add Determined off of Overly Dedicated from Kendrick Lamar's little EP that he put out in 2009, because he kind of takes a shot at Drake there too. I have seen that. What else? I think that's about it. But I want to say thank you to everyone who has been rocking with us from day one. Madman's one of them. Sarah Wong's one of them. My boy Lace Rhymes, Steve out in Vegas, Hunter Pax, Bill down in Watts. Y'all are just literally so cool for just supporting us through this journey, putting us on, putting us up, always telling people to go and listen to what we're saying on this. And I really do appreciate it, from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, Des and I really do appreciate the support. We are a two-man team, and it is hard, balancing jobs that we have both with our clients and trying to make content on this. So I appreciate the patience from everybody. Shout out to, of course, my fiance Desiree. She's just my rock. Incredible. Wouldn't have a Poetic Justice Theory without her. And again, thank you very much for liking and subscribing and supporting the content. If you guys want to donate, links in the bio. Other than that, I feel like I've done a pretty good job at laying out our arguments for the Poetic Justice Theory being right. And I feel like I've negated a lot of the arguments against why we're wrong. So thank you.